Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the Living the Life show. I'm your host, Columbus Cody. I thank you so much for tuning in. You are in for a treat today, okay? Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel right now before we get started because you're not going to want to miss anything that's coming down the road, all right? God bless you guys. Let's get into it. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Living the Life show. I'm your host, Columbus Cody, and I got a very special guest today. I got the one and only. Well, he might not be the one and only, but he is the one that I have today, Pastor Howard Jones. How you doing, Pastor Jones?
Blessed and favored, my brother. How are you?
I'm doing well. Now, I said that, but I started thinking that you're a junior, right?
I am.
So maybe there is another Pastor Howard Jones out there. Is your dad a pastor?
No, he's
Okay.
not. In fact, I had the honor of baptizing my father.
That is awesome. My cousin told me he also had the honor of baptizing his father. So tell me a little bit about that experience. What's it like to have a chance to baptize your own dad?
Amazing. My father, committed guy, brilliant fellow in terms of what God had given him. And I grew up in a grocery store. All right. And my day to work in the grocery store, if I may tell the whole story, my day to work in the grocery store was on Sundays. And I've been working since I was 13 years old. And in my father's house, he got up to go to work. Everybody in the house went to go to work. And that's the kind of a family dynamics we had. So when I got saved, when I received Christ as my Lord and Savior, I was in the 11th grade of school, man. And nobody would tell Dad no. So I had to have this difficult conversation with my father when I got saved that I am going to worship at 11 o'clock, the traditional hour. Going to worship, and I'll be back to work at 1. But I am going to worship. But I remember when I told him that after I got baptized, and he was late coming to relieve me. And I looked at him with a sternness that I never had before. Must have been from heaven. And I said, Dad, I am going to worship. 11, but I'll be back. But it was that stern. I don't know where it came from. Must have come from heaven. And he acquiesced. He looked and said, like, wow.
Wow.
And later on in years, I became a pastor. And when he joined and I baptized him and he got acclimated, he said, man, I really wish I'd have done this way before now.
Yeah. Be honest. Did you cry? Did you cry when you baptized your dad?
Let me tell you something. I can weep now thinking about that connection with my pop. We were close.
Yeah.
Pop was my best friend, man. And he loved the community. I feed people. You know, he did the function without receiving, but he actually operated in the functionality. You know, a man of God. He made a bunch of mistakes in it. And, you know.
But who doesn't, right?
Man.
Yeah.
You know, and I think about Pop when I was 13 and him sitting me down in front of the grocery store across from Circuit Court, 530 North 3rd Street. And he laid out all of his indiscretions. No one could come to me and say, this is what your dad did, or your father did this, that, or the other. He told me all of it. And with tears in his eyes, he told me not to do it. These things you don't do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. As instead of hiding it, I'm going to lay it out in front of you and show you what I don't want for you.
Yes.
Wow.
Father.
Oh, man.
Example of what the Bible says, honor your father and your mother that your days may be long.
All right, you know what? It's funny. We jumped in because when you mentioned that, I had to pull that out. But I always like to get to know the guest a little bit before we dive into the meat of our talk. And so today I'm titling this "Learning About the Leader." So everybody has a different little subheading. So yours is learning about the leader. So I got a few questions for you, just rapid fire. You don't get to contemplate. You just got to answer from the top of the dome. Are you ready? All right. What's your favorite sport to watch on TV?
The Super Bowl.
So football. All right. Oh, just the Super Bowl. So you're not a football guy, just Super Bowl, huh? I think it's the food. You must just like the food, huh? Just the food. All right. Which person in the Bible, and this is one of my favorite questions to ask all my guests, which person in the Bible do you feel you relate to the most? And tell me why.
David. He was not prepared for his coronation. God guided him as he was. And
So
he honored.
You don't think he was prepared?
No.
Being out there and taking care of the sheep?
Not in the sense of the physical concept of it. You know, Daddy them told him, no, you're not the one that's going to be chosen. Go out there, do the sheep. Your brothers are the one that's going to be anointed king. And during that coronation time, you know, he was out there smelly and all the good stuff. Oftentimes, you know, it's in the smelling piece when you are doing what God has fashioned you for. God, he never wastes a pain. And so in the midst of everybody else, you know, being ready, dressed, and thought they were the ones. And God says, no, I got somebody that you did not think was going to be.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. I've had a few Davids. All right. Now, this is a good one. Who is your favorite political figure of all time? One that truly inspires you, and tell me why you picked them.
Wow. I have to say, off the top of my dome would be Andrew Young.
Okay.
They transformed Atlanta, the economic development piece, and being consistent even with his opponent, and they absolutely swapped out, but they came together to make a difference in that city, to build not for themselves, but for the people.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Your favorite food item. You only get to eat one thing the rest of your life. What you picking?
I got to say a dish.
Okay.
7 vegetables over rice.
7 vegetables over rice. And what is the 7 vegetables?
Yellow squash, zucchini, carrots, cauliflower, broccoli. What else is in there? Did I say cabbage? Red cabbage.
You didn't say cabbage. All right.
You got the red cabbage and the green cabbage.
Now, you're not vegetarian, are you?
I am.
Ah, okay. That makes sense then. Now, I didn't see that on the menu at Kingdom Cafe now.
No, but the veggies are there without pork.
That might need to go on the menu, so when I come in, I can grab that on my plate.
That's 7 vegetables over rice, man. You know, it's a story behind that. My children, for me to get them to eat all of those veggies, I just fixed the plate. So this is Daddy's plate. It is very colorful. So the rice, was over brown rice, and a little unhealthy though. You got the cheddar cheese on the top and melted butter, and we would do that with my bread machine, my wheat bread machine.
Man, you tortured those kids. Brown rice and wheat bread.
When they saw it, it was so colorful. They said, Daddy, can I have some?
I think the reason they want it, though, is because it was Daddy's plate. See, if you would have made it for them, it was like, I don't want that. But no, this is Daddy's. Then they want to eat what you got. That's how it works. I learned that because my son's like, I don't like that cereal. So I buy it for myself. They're like, Dad, can I eat your cereal? I thought you didn't like this cereal. Can I have one thing for myself? Nope. Got to share. All right. Final question before we dive in. What's a book that you'd recommend to every leader? Like every leader needs to read this book.
Every leader would need to read.
Other than the Bible.
Okay, yeah, I got you. I think they need to read. There's a book I read by Coelho called The Alchemist.
Great book.
I think they need to read that.
Yeah.
It's your personal legend.
Great book. I love that book.
And don't be tempted.
Have you ever read The Way of the Shepherd?
I think I've heard of it.
Okay. I may have to get you a copy of that. It's real short, very quick read, powerfully impactful, great story for leaders. And I bought it from my pastor years ago. I think I got it from my dad. It's just a great book. I think you would love it.
Good. I just wrote it down. So, I've got 2 or 3 libraries in my...
I assume you did. They say leaders are readers. I'm assuming you got plenty of books over there. All right, so you started telling me about that you got saved when you were 17. I always love to know a little bit about each person's story about how they came to love God and to surrender to God. So share a little bit about that. What was that circumstance or that situation like that brought you to God? Did you know that you could actually support the YouTube channel and podcast? That's right. If you have a desire to be a blessing to the show, there's many different ways you can do it. We have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, and you can use the website to make a donation. Any donation will help, and every donation will be used to pour into the lives of others. So if you want to click on the description of this video, you can find all of the information you need to make a donation. God bless you, and thank you for your support.
Oh man, I was on my way to the club. It was a Thursday night. My sister had been inviting me to come to worship, and I was dressed to go. And Thursday night, of course, is ladies' night. And my sister urged, "Well, since you're ready, why don't you come on and go to worship with me?" And I went to, it was a revival going on at the South Inglewood Church. Pastor Miles, the late great, I'd call late great Oscar Miles, was preaching. And, I went in kind of swaggered, said, "Well, here's some ladies here, but I'm going to go with my sister." And I got to take you back to a time when I encountered God and I didn't know what it was. I was at the Bellmead Primitive Baptist Church where my grandmother belonged, and I was sitting in the sanctuary after Elder Arnold Mitchell had preached. I'm standing in the sanctuary, and I heard this voice, man, said, "Come to me," and it scared the bejesus out of me. I was like, "Man, what is this?" And so on that Thursday night that my sister invited me, Pastor Miles invited those who were, unsaved to come to the front. But first he said, "Those who have not received Christ, raise your hand," right? And so I figured, in my crazy cockiness, I was going to go to the club that night anyway, I thought. And I said, "Well, I'll raise my hand." He asked, "What is he going to do?" And then he said, "Come down and come to the old mourner's bench," right? And so I went down, man, and that same voice that I heard called me to salvation. And I'm glad it did. If it had not called me to salvation at that time, I would not be. I don't even see me being alive at this point if it had not been for the grace and the call and my sister inviting me. And she's gone on to glory. I did her services, preached her eulogy. But if it had not been for my sister inviting me and consistently saying, "Come to Christ, come and experience this new life," I wouldn't be here.
That's beautiful. Because it's funny, because my next question was going to be, how did you know that God was calling you to pastor? But I got to go back now because you heard the voice that said, "Come to me." What did that voice sound like?
It was a still small voice. A voice within is almost as if it was a part of me. It was there, ever present, been keeping. But it was a call to salvation. Come to me. And it was like a still small voice inside saying, just come. And then it was a reminder of the word that I love you. I've sent what you need. Receive this. It was almost a reminder of the voice of the words of God coming through the pastor. And it was resounding but peaceful. It wasn't some big, it was just gentle coming.
Yeah. It's funny because, again, you heard the still soft voice for "Come to me" for salvation. Was there a different voice for "Come to me" and lead as a minister, as a pastor, or was it the same voice?
Oh, that was a fight. What I've come to realize in experience and relationship with the Creator is that when He shows you where He's working,
Mm,
it's an invitation to join Him, which causes a conflict in self, which requires some faith and action. So when He called me to minister, I was I was 18 years old. All right. Going back to the grocery store and that whole economic development deal, the whole business piece. My whole idea was I'm going to be wealthy. I'm going to start these chains of grocery stores.
hmm
Look, I'm gonna make some money. You understand? All right, now that I got saved, I received the call, or the whole idea of being saved. Okay, I got that, Father God, no problem. But I want to be wealthy. Okay, so I won't do number business anymore. That thing. I'm not gonna do the number business. I'm not gonna do the drug thing. I'm not gonna do. I want to be righteous. I want to go to glory. Go to heaven. I want to do all that. So I'm gonna do the grocery store business. I have a chain of grocery stores. Like my pop had one store, mom and pop shop, and he had some other businesses. I said, okay, I'm going to do a chain of these things all over the nation and the world. God says, no, I got something else for you to do.
mm,
And that was a battle. And I was I was going to UT Knoxville, UT. And on the way in that process, I started hearing and feeling this call to ministry. And I was thinking, okay, what part of ministry, Father? So I have all these questions. What part of ministry? You want me to teach? Do you want me to pastor? Do you want me to evangelize? What part of this ministry do you want? And what I discovered as He continued to build a relationship, that God shapes you as He puts you into your mother's womb, that He begins to give you the spiritual gifts, the heart, the ability, the personality, and the experiences to do what He's called you to do.
mm,
So my battle with that voice of saying, I want you to, and I'm an introvert. My daddy didn't preach. I had an uncle that preached, and I'm thinking, I'm kind of shy, really. I said, God, you got to do something about that. And then my argument with this small voice of preaching was, I don't know enough.
hmm
Here again, the scripture says, but I'm going to teach you. Everything you need to do, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to send you what you need. And so my battle with the Lord, I went to UT anyway. And I said, okay, God, can I compromise with you? There's no compromising with you. And so I went on to UT, man. I majored in religion. I studied religion instead of business.
mm.
And it was pretty cool. Pretty cool. He brought me back to Nashville. I started preaching, man, December of 1980.
1980. Wow. Yeah, I was 3 years old that year. What's funny though, because my pastor and I are really close. And so, he said to me, and he's made comments before. I call them jokes. May call me Pastor Cody. You're going to be a pastor one day. And I'm like, negative. I don't want that in my life. I know the weight of this because I speak with you. I know how this weight that you have to carry. My father is a retired pastor, and he was like, one day you're going to pastor too. I'm like, no. So I told my pastor, I said, I have told God I will not say no to him. But if he speaks to me and tells me this is what he wants, it's got to be loud and clear that it's him speaking and not someone else's expectations. And my pastor said this. He said, why can't you accept what I and your father are saying as God speaking to you? And I was like, I hear what you're saying. I respect that, but it's going to have to come another way, And it's just funny because like you said about the fight, that was a fight. My thing is I don't want to fight, but at the same time, I want to make sure, again, that this is what God wants for me and not just because a lot of people look at a kid who sang good at church and, boy, you anointed, you're going to be this and that and this. But maybe that's not what God has for them. And then they start trying to put on a hat or carry a job, a task that God didn't call them for, and then they can't handle that. And you said something beautiful, and my pastor also said the same thing to me. He said, before you became a father, did you know how to be a father? I was like, no. So God will prepare you for, if this is what he calls you for, he will prepare you for this as well. And like you said, it's a beautiful thing to see how God molds and shapes us through our experiences for the task ahead. And, you know, both of us in the world of education, you know, having a chance to be educators and work with children and work with people that are hard to deal with, it may also have played a role in your success as a pastor, you know.
Well,
You know.
well, yes, I got to, you know, the idea of shaping you, and pastoring, God puts everybody's not a pastor. All right, everybody that preaches is not a pastor, and I've discovered that those who have taken the role of pastor are not pastors, but it is a mammoth task of sacrifice.
Yes.
And I think you said something that's amazing, that you've got to use the armor that God has designed for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he did not. You can't use Saul's armor
Right.
to battle Goliath. You will use what God has designed for you to use, and you will be successful.
Yeah.
You know, I would love for my son to the pastor, but I backed him and said, well, you know, whatever God desires. But when you go into Kingdom Cafe, he's pastoring the people that are working. You know, when he's having a problem with one of the employees, I said, that's your son.
Mm.
And he's old. I said, but that's your mission in ministry, to make sure that you minister to them. And he's had to let people go and bring them back because God won't let it leave his heart. That's pastoring.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And it's something that you can't get away from.
Yeah.
Keep pulling you into it. It might be different in this time. All right. The way that pastoring is, and we're familiar with the traditional pieces of pastoring, I think there's a transformative piece that's taking place in terms of pastoring. The pastorship of, I think, behind the four walls is coming to a close.
Mm. It's interesting you say that, because a lot of people are fighting that change, you know. And I know a lot of pastors who they boldly stand on the statement you just said. You know, they see the change and they're adapting to the change. And there's so many who I refuse to adapt because God changes not. You know how we throw that scripture up, right? Forget that he says I'm going to do a new thing. God changes not. So,
Or that your thoughts are not his thoughts.
right. So the transformation of the pastorate, what do you see coming down the road? What has God shown you how things are shifting in the realm of spiritual leadership?
I think it's going to have to be relative. Relative meaning this: the rudiments of salvation, you know, pretty simple. We read it, but Jesus made it very plain. I was hungry and you fed me. I was outdoors and you sheltered me. You know, I was naked and you clothed me. I was in prison and you visited me. Those things, in my estimation, we have neglected as a church.
Mm.
We think that it's the government's responsibility. Well, the government shall be upon his shoulders. We are the body of Christ. And if we're the body of Christ, then folk ought to be able to come to us and receive food, clothing, shelter, and not just to eat for a day, but to eat for a lifetime. So is it against our spirituality or our pastorship when we understand that affordable housing is lacking?
Mm.
Churches have, you know, you have property. Churches have property all over the place. We have this big illustrious building that's there, but what's lacking is us creating the affordable housing that's there. And we've got to do that. That's our responsibility. That is our job to do. So the pastorship is not just preaching on Sunday, but putting that faith to work, where when folk come and they're out of doors, then we have a shelter for them. When the rent is $1,500 a month, the churches actually could create housing and still be blessing. And I think about what we did at Fairfield. We have affordable housing, okay. But when I was in my 20s, you know, God put this in my heart, man. Back when I started pastoring, back when I got saved, actually, I was asking the question: is it against our religion to feed, clothe, and shelter? And it was strong in my heart. And so when I started pastoring in Fairfield, there's some apartments next door. We were locked in. I said, well, can we buy these apartments? Let's negotiate buying these apartments. And I said, look, it'd be a blessing to buy them and keep the rent down to $400. And we still have those apartments at $700 a month and 2-bedroom units. And it's still a blessing. We paid for them in 5 years because no one was trying to live off of them. And now, the vision that God gave back when I was in my 20s was that these apartments, by being a blessing to someone else, you will also receive a blessing that it will take care of the note of the new facility. And it does. just that simple. Wow. And the rent is still at $700 at this point, $700 a month for 2-bedroom units. And it takes care of over half the note that we have to pay. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, it could take care of the whole note. At this point. It takes care of the whole note on the facility that we're in at this point.
Yeah. So, and I love that like you just said, as it relates to no, you didn't say relational. What was the term you used? You said what was the term you used? Not relevance.
Both of those words.
Right. But relational as it relates to the church is as we are the church, not the building. Yes. And I think traditionally we've gotten so used to I logged in my hours at church on Sunday that we've lost the scope of ministry. Like you said, we're just coming to hear a sermon, shout for a few minutes and leave versus let me hear this message to grow spiritually so that now I can be a blessing to someone else. I think our mindsets, like you said, has shifted. And I honestly believe the pandemic has brought many, many people closer to God. And it's also exposed to many of us that we were just going through the motions with our church life. It wasn't we didn't have God leading our hearts, because now you look up and I'm not sure how it is at your church, but I know a lot of churches are struggling to get their people back. They like the convenience of I'll watch it at home on the internet. But if you're at home on the internet, are you watching TV while you also have the Zoom on? Are you truly engaged? Are you like impacted by what's going on? Or is it, again, just going through the motions? And I know a lot of pastors who they're okay with that because they still get financial support. So they're like, oh, well, the people are still supporting. And that's a good thing, but they're not being truly fed like they could if they were in that building, hearing that word. And now they have a desire, a fire in them to, like you said, go forth now and be the church versus those four walls, like you said. And I think what you were saying is true, because I think God is revealing to us that we got into a rut of just going through the motions. And once those motions was changed, once that system and that flow was interrupted through the pandemic, now you see the need for that connection with your brother. Now you see the need for that connection with your sister, because when you were disconnected, you longed for this. Now that you have the opportunity to reconnect, where are you? Why are you at home still? You know, you have a chance now to be back in the presence of your brother, back in the presence of your sister, and to serve one another. And then you two go serve someone that doesn't know me and make following me appealing. You know, it's baffling to look up. And I hate, a lot of times people hear you talk like that and they assume like you're judging them because they don't have the same passion or drive that you have for God. And that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we might be self-deceived because we've gone through the motions for so long. And now God is showing us this is not the idea I had for this thing. You know, this is how I was intending for it to flow. I was intending it for you all to care for one another, you know, and like you said, and God will, when you have a heart to do it and to do it right, like you said, then he sustains you so that you can keep doing it. So now you've got the units. You rent them out to where the families can actually stay in them, because you can't find no 2-bedroom place in Nashville for $700. And what I will do is I'll make sure you have the income to sustain the building and the bills and all of those things so you can keep going, you know. And once contentment becomes part of your heart, you don't have to have an abundance of everything else because things are actually working, you know. There's a book I read a while back called The God Pocket. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Mm.
But in this book, he talked about how a portion of his income goes into his God pocket, and everything in the God pocket is God's money, not his. But he would pray and he would ask God to show him how to use the money in the God pocket. Mm-hmm. And so God would direct his steps, that still soft voice, that still small voice that would tell him, give it to this person, render it to that person. So he said he was in the drive-through at like a fast food restaurant one day, and he heard God say, you got $50 in the God pocket, give it to the young lady in the drive-through. Mm-hmm. It was like, $50? You sure, Lord? Normally, you know, it's like $10, $20. You want me to give her the whole 50? Give her the $50. So he pulls up to the window to pay for his food, and he says, young lady, I know this may sound strange, but I sense in my spirit that God is telling me to give you this. So he gives her the $50. So he gets his food and he drives off. So a few days later, he comes back to the restaurant, and when he pulls through, the young lady stops him, and she explains to him that she was about to have her baby, and she needed to get a car seat, and she could not. Of course, you know, you got to have a car seat to bring the baby home, and they needed the $50 for the car seat. And it was exactly what they needed. And it was like, and what he was explaining was, as long as you're honorable with what's in the God pocket, God always makes sure you have something to put back in the God pocket. So again, if we serve with this kind of heart, with this kind of mindset, he's going to always replenish us, because our mindsets are on service, not on hoarding for ourselves, you know. Yeah, I'm supposed to be interviewing you. I'm doing too much talking. I apologize.
No, that's the relative piece, and that's your pastoral piece. Mm. So, and so that's that old connection, and you know, it's an amazing thing that what God does and how He does it in the Spirit. Now, can you imagine churches and pastors getting to that point where they have a God pocket and not a hoarding pocket?
Mm. Yeah.
And how much He will pour more into you. The more of a blessing we are to others, the more He gives back. Mm-hmm. I share with my son, and something I learned in the growing up in the grocery store with my pop, you know, because what happens with African Americans who are coming into business for the first time, and my parents were that first generation out of slavery to ascertain property and go into business and things of that nature. And sometimes they want to just hoard it and say, like, we don't want nobody stealing from you. But folk can't steal more than God's going to give you. They won't be able to steal as much as you can make. So the more you pour into people, God's going to pour back into you. The more you give, the more He'll give unto you. And that is an amazing principle. That
it is.
That if you operate and live under it, it's life. That's the living life. That's living the life. But sometimes we don't get it, and we think, well, somebody's going to mistreat me. Somebody's going to use me. Not use me.
Right.
And God is going to give it back. I'm telling you, He has abundantly blessed.
Yeah.
By giving, and you have folks who think, well, but I'm taking from Him. You're not taking from Him. What I have to end up doing is praying for you, because if you misuse me or mistreat me, God is going to just going to take care of that.
Yeah.
Man, it's amazing. It's amazing.
All right, so let's talk a little politics now. We talked the pulpit, we talked pastorage. Let's talk a little politics. So many people, well, let me ask you this. How do you think serving as a pastor for all these years will enhance your ability to serve in this leadership role that you're running for now?
Servant leadership. It is servant leadership that has prepared me for this. And with serving as a teacher and teaching history and government and social studies, and learning, my undergraduate degree is in sociology and history. So in understanding sociology deals with the institutions that propel and perpetuate society. Okay. So when looking at those institutions, without religion, without economics, without government, you know, without the family, you know, without education, I think I've mentioned all five, you don't have a society, proper society. And when those things cease to exist, you don't have an organization. So in terms of being a pastor and a teacher, it has prepared me for uh, that third branch of government. You know, the three branches of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. All for the people, by the people. Okay, should be for us. Okay, when it's an aloof institution, when it is one where people are thinking that, well, this is mine, it belongs to me, and it's my turn to sit in this particular seat, they have no idea that your seat is not for you, it's for the service of the people.
I like
And,
that.
and when we have leaders who are thinking it's my turn to sit in this seat, or I'm at the table, well, you shouldn't be the only one at the table. It should be everybody that before he has set this table before me in the presence of my enemies, not just for me to sit down and say, oh, look at what God has given me this table. He sets before you a table before your enemies so that you can invite your enemies to the table. Not for you to gloat, but for you to invite your enemies to come and sit down and let's eat together. That's the only reason God blesses. So my prepared piece of bringing this court to the point of service to Miss Lucille and Mr. John and Shaniqua and Betty and Karen, because it's an aloof institution and it should not be that way. It should be one of service to the people. So in talking about probate court, that's one of the courts that we would be responsible for the paperwork as you would. It should be a point of maintenance. It should be a point of helping people get your house in order so that you won't have to come to probate court. If your parents are first generation landowners and they don't know how to properly transfer that deed where it would be clear, you will be in probate court, or your children's children will be in probate court. Attorneys will be getting the money, and the court system will be getting a greater profit from what should be a generational blessing for you and your family.
Wow.
So what we do is to serve by educating and sharing, bringing the judge out, because the judge at the same time should just be sitting in the seat of judgment, but be sitting in the seat of service to the community and saying, okay, this is what we recommend you do. And we would absolutely, I've talked to some judges and I met with them before I sought to this office and say, would you be willing to come and have this conversation with the people, because the people elect you. And so let's get into the community and serve the community that elects us.
Yeah.
And that's not been done, unfortunately. And I had a person ask me, well, who would pay for it? I said, that's what the job requires. The salary that you give would be, that's it. You go into the community and serve. So as a pastor, and when you're talking, I'm going back on you now, and your pastor telling you about pastoring. I pastor when I'm a principal. I pastor when I'm a probation officer. I pastor when I go into Kingdom Cafe and somebody come in and say, like, I'm going through something and would you pray for me? I stop right there and pray for them.
Yeah.
When my kids at school ask me, you know, mom and them going on, big mama died, my brother just got shot, my uncle got shot. I don't know how I'm going to deal with the kids going through. He said, Mr. Jones, would you pray for me? I'll stop there and pray.
Yeah.
You're going to put me in jail? This kid is going through hell and needs somebody to pray and then ask you to pray. Then you pastor them there. So we would just use the pastorate is just service, you know, and that's what we would do in this job. But then making sure that it is efficient. My personality is one of achievement. All right. And if you've taken all those personality assessments, you find out what achievement is. I want to most certainly achieve. And I don't want just me achieve, but I want everything around me to achieve and build capacity. So what we would immediately begin to do is to find those persons that will be willing to lead to take my place. If I stop tomorrow and something happened to me at Fairfield Church, the Fairfield Church, we have about, oh my God, the elders, and there's enough ordained people in there. Tomorrow, if I don't show up by 10:45, they're already trained to preach. I don't get there at 8 o'clock, they're going to teach. It's not no ifs, ands, and buts about it. If I don't show up at a funeral, they are ready to take on that responsibility. And that's what leadership is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard T.D. Jakes say years ago, leadership is working your way out of a job.
Yes.
You're preparing those under you so well that they can function if you don't show up. Like you said, if I'm not there, the show continues to go. And I hate even using the term show because that's not what we do, but nothing stops the show.
Yeah. The service continues to continue.
That's it.
Will continue. And it ought to be getting better as a result of you coming in. I don't know if I can live with myself if, I go into Pastor Fairfield and leave it and it's not better than it was as a result of us being there.
Yeah.
And it's about service. It's about service. And they know that, but Cody, they know I'll pick up a trash can and I'll empty it. So in the nursery, if somebody left a dirty pamper in there, it's just me leaving it.
Right. Now, Pastor don't pick up pampers now. Come on now. Pastor ain't picking up pampers. This where Pastor draws the line. I ain't picking up no pampers. I'm done. I surrender all, but not that far.
But the pastor heart is amazing. I remember, man, I was young. I've been pastoring since I was 20. I was about 27, I guess, when I started pastoring. And I remember Mother Townsend, man. I went into the hospital to visit, and I got on the floor. I heard somebody hollering. I just hollered. I was like, "Who in the world?" The nurses kind of like upset and going on. Like, what's this person yelling on the floor? Right? I mean, what's going on? And it was a member. But she had so much fluid on her, and her legs were cramping. And when I went in, I sensed also the time of transitioning for her. And so, she was still talking about going to law school. I mean, after she's way up in age, and the Spirit said, "Just massage your legs and tell her to relax, let go and let God." So I massaged her legs, and she calmed down. And if you imagine just massaging an old lady's legs, right? We massaged her legs, so they were cramping. So she just needed someone to massage her.
Yeah.
And not just massage her legs, but also massage her spirit, that she could relax because God had her. And I remember her little eyes, the cataract eyes, stopping, and she looked, and she opened her eyes and looked at me. And the peace of God came upon her. She transitioned that next week in peace.
Wow.
Floor was calm. But it wasn't Howard. It was about service. Now, as a minister, all the ministers at Fairfield, we a couple of years, man, before COVID, we would wash feet. And they didn't want to wash feet. So I said, fine, no problem. I'm going to wash all the leadership's feet, all the deacons. And I'm going to speak into them as I wash your feet. I'm going to tell you what I sense in your spirit. But I'm going to wash your feet. And it wouldn't be a dry eye in the place. Because it was just that kind of service. And I meant that kind of service. Now, that's the pastor's heart. And that's, God gave that. And I can go into it. But that's what a pastor should do.
All right. Me and you, we'll get on the elevator together.
Yes.
You tell me you're going to floor 7. I'm going to floor 8. You got 1 minute to tell me why I should vote for you. Tell me why. Why am I voting for you?
Because if you fell down and you need to get to that next level, I won't help you up there. I'm going to sacrifice, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that you fulfill the purpose that's within you. Vote for me because I am going to be a true, authentic leader. Check my record. And that's what I've done throughout the years. As a probation officer, I've been in our kids' homes and loved them. And I've got them out, taking them to school. Yeah, some of them got locked up, but boy, they still love me because I did it out of love. As a principal teacher, I've done the same thing. I told the kids at McGavick High School, look, I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. And I can walk through J.C. Napier University Court because all those people there that went to McGavick High School know that I love them without a doubt. Those that are Stratford High School, before I met them, when one of their young classmates was shot down like a dog on the side of the project area. Went there, had a prayer vigil, didn't know I was going to end up being their principal. But God brought them together into the Fairfield Church, and absolutely we served them. And we serve them now, serve them through data-driven information and making sure they know who they are and whose they are in terms of their academics. And by identifying that, even at Stratford, our kids right now, because of the servant leadership, our kids, though they've gone through a pandemic, all right, exceeded the growth set by MNPS at Stratford High School. I serve as a leader, a servant leader, by having affordable housing, by starting Kingdom Cafe and putting so-called previously convicted persons to work. I will do the same thing by bringing the court to the community. I ask for your vote because I love you and there's nothing you can do about it, and I will give my life to this. And I was born to do just this.
That's beautiful. It's funny. I was going to mention that saying that you have, because the first time I met you, you were my summer school principal at Glencliff High School. Oh. So that was probably, if I was to guess, maybe 17 years ago, maybe. I don't know. It's been a long time, but you were our summer school principal. And yes, when you would do the announcements every morning, you would say, "I love you." And there's nothing you could do about it. It was so funny because after a while, the kids in class would say it when you said it over the intercom. And I was like, because I remember the first thing you told me, like, look, you came here to learn. If you don't take care of business, you got to go. Now, I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. And we had the best summer school because the kids understood there was accountability. Yes. And if you're going to be here, you got to take care of business. These teachers didn't come in on the summer to have to deal with nonsense. They're here to educate you. And yes, but the love that you felt, you didn't feel harassed. You felt embraced. You felt, okay, I blew it during the school year, but these teachers and this administration is here for me. And my kids were phenomenal that summer. You know, that's how I knew I was ready to move up and start teaching high school, because I was still teaching elementary school. And yes, then I started teaching high school because I wanted to be the head coach. And, you know, of course, and again, just talking about God preparing you. You know, I was head coach for 2 years at Glencliff, and then my oldest son was born, and I decided to resign because I wanted to spend more time with the family. Then, you know, I want to win now, but I can't win in both places on the level I want to win on. So I choose to win at home before I win outside the home. So that's why I decided to step out of coaching and spend time as a father first, you know, because I could always go back to coaching. I don't get these years back, you know, that they were growing up in. So, but yeah, I'm glad you pulled out that "I love you" and there's nothing you can do about it, because I have it right here in my notes. All right, I got 2 more questions for you, then I'm gonna let you go because I know you're a busy man. All right, so here's my second to last question. Unfortunately, politics and politicians usually have a bad rap for corruption, selfishness. What's the other one I put in here? And dishonesty. Okay. Yeah. How do you plan, or what do you plan to do to guard your heart against these type of pitfalls?
Accountability. You must have an accountability partner. You know, the first thing I would do is require an audit of the books and make sure, you know, $6 million comes through that court every year from fines and court costs. Where's the money going? You know, the same thing we should require of anyone that's leading any particular area. I've gone into the accountability straight, you know, with the books at the church. You know, we've gone from having they thought $18,000 in the bank was something to having, you know, my gosh, we have, you know, tons of money in the bank. I don't have to touch the money, but I want to see the books. And I want us to be accountable and share with the people what it is. I don't even touch the money. Never touch the money. I don't collect any money. I don't even set my salary. I don't even ask for a particular salary. They give me what they want me to have, which is great. but accountability and transparency is necessary. And we need to require that of the city as well, the city of Nashville, with all the tax dollars. When I ran for council at large, and everybody at that particular point was saying, let's raise property taxes to pay our teachers. And I said then, I'm against raising property taxes because that's fake in terms of saying you're going to give a teacher a raise, because once you raise property taxes, then plate lunches are going to go up, rent's going up, mortgages are going up, insurance is going up. Then what you're saying you're giving to the teachers are not going to be a raise at all. It's not going to be true. Give the teachers a raise. I believe in fully funding education, but don't turn around and raise taxes, because Kingdom Cafe, we pay $16,000 a year for property taxes, and they want that money. They want that money in February. They want that 16. They're not going to talk about, well, you can wait. No. They want that 16,000. They're going to start charging you interest and penalties and all that stuff if you don't pay it. But that cost is extended to the consumer. And the insurance goes up. Everything's going up. As you're seeing things going up because property taxes went up. So if the city is expanding, right, and we have all of these industries coming in, well, where's the money going? So in terms of not being caught up in the corruption, I have a commitment to something greater than myself. And that commitment is to my higher power. I don't push the higher power piece on anyone else. I don't push religions on anybody else. If you're Muslim, all right, assalamu alaikum. If you're Jew, fine, shalom. If you are a Christian, peace, fine. I'm not pushing that down anybody's throat. That's your choice, okay? It's your choice to receive the God or not. If God ain't making you believe in him, it ain't my job to make you believe in him. I'm not coming into your house. I'm not going to police you. That I believe in the rule of law. All right, so it is my commitment to do it with dignity and with respect. The leadership, I think, that is due. I stand on the backs, man. I stand on the backs of those like Avon Williams, who decided to stand up for righteousness and truth and the commitment for the people. I stand on the backs of the Nashes and the Benjamin Hooks and the John Hope Franklins and the Du Bois, those persons who really fought. Even Miss Magruder, who would stand up and say, look, we're going to stop these particular injustices. I owe this. I owe the service to my mom, to my dad, to my children, to the children and the people in the community. I owe that to them, to be as right as I can be faithfully, to put the faith I believe to work. And here's my last piece with that. I am not for sale, and I cannot be purchased. I don't need their money. I was raised in Preston Taylor, 3510 Indiana Avenue. I could get along with a bowl of pinto beans and some Kool-Aid.
That should have been your line that you ran with. I like that. Oh, that is funny. Oh man, that was beautiful though. That was beautiful. I love that. I'm not for sale. I mean, so what I do out of love. I do out of service. I do out of wanting to see better for my city, for my community. My motivation is not for gain. As you stated earlier, when you were younger, before you started following what God had for you, your vision for you was, I want to be wealthy. Now you recognize you may be wealthy, but from a different vantage point. Maybe I don't have all the economical wealth, but what I have is greater than silver and gold, So, it's beautifully stated. I always like to end each interview with the final question. And it is, because my name of my show is Living the Life. I always want to know who's that one person in your life that lived the life of Christ before you so well that it inspired you and encouraged you to surrender your heart to Christ. Because we always want to acknowledge that person.
Wow. She's my second mom. She even told my mom that I know your son better than you know him when you birthed him. And my mother said, okay, I'll take that. My spiritual mentor, Ice K, Mother Gladys Haley. She faithful let me tell you, I can't begin to tell you. I go back to when I first met Mother. You know, be mindful, I was in my 20s, right, when I started pastoring, and God prepared me. I studied the Word of faith. You know, I believe that God sent me to Fairfield to feed sheep and not slop hogs.
Mm.
And so, and I went with a little, from some reverent fear. I was kind of scared. I'm thinking like, oh God, you want me to pass this shit? I got to preach every Sunday. Oh God, oh God. And so I remember, and I was interim pastor of Fairfield for, I guess, almost a year before I became the pastor. And I went to Mother Haley's home. And I was always taught to read everything I see, right? So on her coffee table, and at that particular time, I would preach with a manuscript. And on Mother Haley's coffee table was an outline of my sermon that she had listened to and wrote the outlines, points, the supporting particular points of it, and the conclusion. Man, that was amazing. We would have teachers meeting every Tuesday for church school. And I remember one time Mother challenged me. I was 20-something years old, but I knew the word that we were sharing. And she said, I'm going to go study that. And if she told you something, she did it. And with integrity, she'd come back and say, this is what I found. Beloved.
Mm.
Beloved. And I recall going through some things in my life, personal. And I called Mom and I said, Mom, I just need you to pray. She stopped and literally prayed for me, wept for me, and didn't ask me what it was. She just prayed. For 10 years, I've done a lifting the lid leadership conference call at 6 a.m. Monday through Friday. And I said, Mother, I want you to lead the prayer in that before I give the devotion. I still have recorded those prayers. She taught church school. She helped with Vision 2000. She allowed me to ordain the deacon. She was not a spring chicken.
Mm.
This one saint of God, when no one else in the church would go with me to go visit the sick and shut in on a Thursday, because that was the time I had to go. I was a juvenile court. You don't know, but I was a juvenile court, and that Thursday was a day that I could go. She went with me.
Mm.
Man, I miss her. I miss her.
Yeah, I pray that one day we're going to interview someone and their answer to my question will be Howard Jones, will be Columbus Cody. You know what I mean? That's my aspiration, is that when people ask, how did you come to know the Lord? Who showed you Jesus? That our names will pop up. So my prayer, and I'm truly, truly, truly grateful for you giving me this time. And I pray that, number one, that this interview will encourage many who listen. It will also inspire and inform those who are on the fence and don't know who to vote for, and to understand the character, the quality of the leadership that you intend to provide, that they will be encouraged to make their way to the polls May 3rd. Yeah, I'll be standing in line. Lord, please don't let it rain. I will be in line. I will be casting my vote. Your 1 minute spiel has won me over. More so than your 1 minute spiel, your many years of consistent integrity. I appreciate that, as my show is called Living the Life, that you live the life that you are speaking of, and not just talk about the life. So, you know, I pray many, many blessings upon you, and I pray that your campaign is successful. And I pray that as you lead in this area, that God will continue to shield you. And as that question I asked about guarding your heart, I pray that he will boldly speak to you if you ever step in a direction that will lead to harm or ruining your witness, or your tarnishing your ability to lead people the way he wants you to lead them. I pray that he'll nudge you back on path if that ever happens. So you got your accountability people, but I want you to know you also have us supporting you through our prayers and through our vote. So I just want to let you know I appreciate you, and I pray many, many blessings upon you.
Thank you. And look, I appreciate you doing this. And I pray bountiful blessings upon this ministry that you have here, living the life, by just encouraging people to reflect upon what the God, what the Christ, what the Holy Spirit, what the Word of faith has done and is doing, and God is yet alive.
Beautiful. Well, once again, thank you so much to the great Howard Jones, folks. All right, you know what you got to do. You got to start getting busy living the life. God bless you guys.